After helping a grieving friend, his business got stuck with a big bill.
From the beginning, I told Dave I had no money, none. He has the mortuary people that come in and they do the same thing. They shake your hand and it's like a used car salesman, you know?
I gave you the discount and I did everything I could for you. I said, you have to pay me the money.
You say you had no money to pay for your mother's funeral. Then all of a sudden, people produce checks paid on your behalf by this person who you cannot prove exists to me.
And later, her daughter's best friend stole her identity, then showed off on Instagram.
She posted money, Gucci shorts for a 4-year-old, but she can't pay her tickets.
Why are you posting all these 20s on Instagram?
I wanted to.
Just so you know, whenever I see people posting money on Instagram, that means they don't have it.
Faith Jenkins. Her distinguished legal career began when she graduated first in her law school class. She quickly became a tough New York City prosecutor, and then a preeminent legal analyst on cable news. And now she's the judge in her own courtroom. Her cases are real, and her rulings are final. She is Judge Faith. Plaintiff David Fernandez says he never expected his former friend to pay for his services with a counterfeit check. He's suing for unpaid funeral expenses. Defendant Steve Coley says David knew he had no money to pay for his mother's funeral, and he had nothing to do with the bogus check. He's accompanied by Rhonda Oxenham.
All rise. Court is in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Please be seated. Your Honor, the litigants have been sworn in. This is the case of Fernandez versus Coley.
Thank you, Juan. David Fernandez.
Yes, Your Honor.
You are suing the defendant, Steve Coley.
Yes, ma'am.
For $5,000 for unpaid funeral expenses and pain and suffering?
That's correct.
Okay, why don't we start from the very beginning, sir, and you tell me what's going on.
Okay, I met Mr. Coley a couple years prior to this when his brother passed away. And that's when I met his mom and the family, and I did everything I could for Steve and the family, which they were satisfied with. And okay, so now his mom has passed away in February of 14, and so Steve comes to me, and I said, "Yes, Steve, what do you want?" I said, "Dave, my mom's passed away." I said, "Okay, Steve, I'll help you. You know, this is what I do. I help people."
And so your business is caskets and more?
Right.
And what exactly do you do?
Well, I sell the vault, the flowers, the caskets, the property. I just don't pick up the body. I'm not serviced or licensed to pick up the body. Steve asked me to help him get some property for his mom, which I did. Made a big discount, and the cemetery is about $6,000. I think I sold it for $32 for Steve. Also the casket, big discount, and the vault, and everything. Tried to help him out. So I did all that, and in the process, Steve had told me that he was a little tight with some money, but he was going to give me the money because I said I had to have the money paid before the services.
Okay, and tell me what happened.
We go see Dave, and Dave, you know, he treats you like you're the best person around. He's a good guy. Don't worry about nothing. We're going to take care of it, you know. And from the beginning, I told Dave I had no money, none.
He's running a business. Did he tell you, don't worry about it?
He shake my hand, tell me all the good things. I told him there's a man that's going to handle some fundraising and do the computer, and I don't know how it works, but that he would be handling this. But Dave has his friends. He has the mortuary people that come in and they do the same thing. They shake your hand and it's like a used car salesman, you know. You know, treat you real nice, and you know, everything's gonna be taken care of.
So what do you say happened?
Well, no, that's not true. He had a pastor friend who was going to pay or write a check for the full amount. Now, I had conversations with Steve. I said, Steve, I said, you know, I'll work with you, but nothing's for free. I mean, you know, I gave you.
Hold on a second, sir. Hold on a second.
I gave you the discount, and I did everything I could for you. I said, you have to pay me the money. He's a return customer. You know, we had buried his brother a couple years, so of course we're going to bury his mom and do what's right. But it wasn't for free, and Steve knows that because I even approached him on it. Yeah.
What was the total amount?
On my end, it was $23.05 plus another couple $100 with some other, you know, going to court.
And you agree that he did service you with the casket and the flowers and the property, sir?
We got a casket. We got one thing of flowers, and.
But you agree that he did provide you with the services that he said he would. The two of you discussed, and you buried your mother, correct?
Yeah, my mother got buried, and we got a casket, and we had one set of flowers.
From his company,
I suppose so.
Yeah. Did you not give him a check?
No.
Who gave you the check?
He was supposed to give it to me the day before his mother's
I never was
funeral.
going to give you a check ever.
Yeah, he did.
No, listen, sir.
No.
So tell me what happens. How do you get paid and what happens?
Because I called him, I said, Steve, I said, this has to be paid before the services.
Mm-hmm. You told him that you didn't have any money, but he told you he needed to be paid, right?
He knew I had no money from the gate. He knew was dealing with this guy, Dave, and we were talking with this guy, Dave, that was helping us.
Who is Dave?
Dave is a friend of my mother's that worked for her. She had a business like helping people out of prison. And
So hold on one second. So what ends up happening, he gives you a check.
Give me a check. I looked at it, I said, okay.
May I see a copy of the check, please?
Yes.
And what happens with the check? You go to deposit it in the bank the next day. What happens?
It takes like 2 days. So we run the check, and the bank comes back. Chase Bank comes in. It's a counterfeit check.
Coming up, a good deed is rewarded with a bad check.
I took the cheapest way out. I didn't get my mom embalmed. I went away, closed casket.
When his mother passed, he was devastated. David and his friend, the mortuary, prayed on him, brought him in, had him pick out a casket, said knowing he had no money.
And later, unopened mail leads to thousands of dollars in damages.
So the issue is she's getting tickets.
Ticket after ticket after ticket.
It was like probably 7 or 8 tickets before it got told.
7 or 8 tickets. You're going to stick with that story?
Yeah, I will.
30 tickets over the course of 5 months.
Plaintiff David Fernandez says he was shocked when his former friend paid with a counterfeit check. He's suing for unpaid funeral expenses. Defendant Steve Coley says it wasn't his fault David didn't get paid because a friend of the family wrote the bad check.
Did you call the police and make a police report?
Yes, in fact, I
May
made
I see
police-
that? And what happened when you approached the defendant about this check?
I asked him, that's when I asked him, I said, can you make some kind of payment? I'll work with you. But he said, hell no, I'm not going to, I'm not going to work with you. I said, Steve, come on.
So this check is signed by David. You say that's a friend of your mother's.
Yes, David.
Okay. Clearly you had a conversation with David about this.
I had, my girl, everyone was dealing with Dave.
Can you step up, ma'am?
Yeah.
I didn't know Dave was going to write a check. I didn't know how he was going to write.
What conversation did you have with David about the money you owed for the funeral? Because it's for the exact amount.
We weren't aware of how he was paid. We gave him the information to contact him, and all that was done without our knowledge.
So you come before me, you say you had no money to pay for your mother's funeral. Then all of a sudden, people produce checks. Both of the checks are fraudulent. They're paid on your behalf by this David person who you cannot prove exists to me.
When his mother passed, he was devastated. David and his friend, the mortuary, they kind of like prayed on him and brought him in, had him pick out a casket, said knowing he had no money.
Let me just stop you because I'm sure it's a difficult thing when you lose a parent. I'm sure you were suffering and going through a tremendous amount of grief. But at the same time, these people are running their businesses, and you can't write forged checks or have someone else write forged checks to pay for these services, and that's what happened. I think you wanted to get your mother buried, and you thought, I'll deal with whatever I have to deal with afterwards.
No. I mean, Your Honor, if I was trying
But
to
you
get
can't-
over, I would, this guy was trying to upsell me, give me the top of the line stuff, I went the cheapest.
didn't.
I didn't know what to pick.
He
I
paid-
took the cheapest way out. I didn't get my mom embalmed. I went away, closed casket, 5-10 minutes at the graveyard. If I had something, if I was going to do something bad, it sure wouldn't have been taking the cheapest way out I could.
Listen, I'm sorry for you, sir, but the bottom line is a service was provided and you have to pay for it. And what concerns me even more, this wasn't just a check written and there were insufficient funds in your account. This was counterfeit. This is felony level fraud committed, counterfeit checks. Someone's writing them. I am ordering you to pay for the funeral services. You're asking for pain and suffering. This is a breach of contract case. I'm ordering you to pay for the funeral services, the amount of the bounce check in addition to the court cost. $2,305, judgment for the plaintiff. Good luck.
I ain't paying you, dude. I ain't paying you.
You deserved it.
Call the police on someone else. Because I see you in the street.
Plaintiff Cassandra Armstrong says her daughter's BFF accumulated thousands of dollars in traffic tickets after fraudulently registering a vehicle in her name. She's suing for unpaid traffic tickets and transportation costs. Defendant Gwen Cole says she doesn't owe any money because the vehicle wasn't registered in her name and no tickets were mailed to her address. She's countersuing for the cost of her vehicle.
Cassandra Armstrong?
Yes.
You were suing the defendant, Gwen Cole?
Yes.
For $2,500, you say she owes you for unpaid traffic tickets and transportation costs?
Yes.
And you are countersuing ma'am for $3,000. You say she owes you for the cost of a vehicle?
Correct.
Okay, we'll start with you, Ms. Armstrong. Tell me what's going on here.
Well, I'm here because Gwen stole my identity. She got several tickets, and I'm here to get my money for the tickets.
What do you mean by she stole your identity?
She asked me, my daughter asked me, could I register Gwen's car? And I said I would think about it. So Gwendolyn and myself went to the motor vehicle, and I paid a fine, and I couldn't register the vehicle, so I went home.
Okay, so let's back up for a second. You purchased a car.
I purchased the car.
What kind of car?
I asked her a 2001 Dodge Durango.
Okay.
No, it's a 2000, Yana. It's a 2000, not a 2001.
It's a 2000.
Okay,
It was a 2001 Dodge Durango.
I have the
Dodge
title right here,
Durango.
y'all. It's a 2000.
Yeah, she still has the title that she never gave me back.
You didn't pay your tickets,
asked her to
Gwen.
register the car.
Ma'am, hold on a second.
I'm talking.
Hold on a second. Both of you stop.
I asked her to
Let's go
register-
back to the very first question
Okay.
I asked you. What kind of car is
A
it?
2001 Dodge Durango.
Okay. Tell me about the conversation you then have with her after you purchased the car.
I asked her daughter, Tasha, which is my friend, if her mother could register for me. She told me to ask her myself, which I did. She agreed to do it. She said that her license was suspended. I had to pay some fine for her at the DMV in order for her to register it, which I did. I paid for it out of my own money, my own
No, you didn't,
pocket.
Gwen.
We went to the DMV. I paid for it.
You say you went to the DMV
Yes,
together
together.
to register this vehicle in her name.
Correct.
And why didn't you not want to register it in your name?
Because it would be high, and she's much older, and it would be like cheaper for me.
So you were trying to get cheaper insurance by putting it in her name, which is basically a form of insurance fraud. Okay, and you say what
But she
happened?
agreed
My
to
license
it.
was
Because
suspended, and
the
you had a
car is.
suspension. Why would you want to put it
Excuse
in
me,
my name?
ma'am. Excuse me.
She didn't know
I'm
how.
sorry.
Do you want to do this by yourself?
No,
If you want to
ma'am.
cross-examine her and do this
No,
on your
ma'am, I'm
own,
sorry.
I can go back to the back and you guys can work it out.
Yes, ma'am.
I will throw your case out. I'm
Yes,
not joking.
ma'am.
So you say the two of you went to the DMV together
Yes.
and registered the car in your name together. You say what to that?
I filled out the paperwork, but I went home because I couldn't register the vehicle that day. We couldn't do the car. We couldn't register the vehicle.
How do you say she was able to get this vehicle
'Cause she had
registered
the
without
paper-
you being there?
She had the paperwork with my name on it, and I don't have to be present. So she took the paperwork back with my name on it and registered the vehicle that
On
day.
her own?
Right.
So she just
Take it
committed
off.
fraud, and you're saying it's done, it's okay, we'll just
No,
go
it
forward
wasn't.
from here?
It wasn't okay, but it's done. I knew Gwen to be reliable.
According to you, you're saying she committed fraud, and then you're okay with it.
In a way, she
5
did.
hours later. What
Yes.
happens next?
About 4 months later, the police knocked on my door. Banging on my door was a detective, the mall detective. They said that the vehicle, a picture was taken of the vehicle. Someone swiped their credit card to go through the parking, and she tailgated them and went through the parking without paying. I called Gwen, questioned her about the parking. She gave me some nonchalant story. It wasn't her, but they had a picture of the vehicle.
So the issue is she's getting tickets.
Ticket after ticket after ticket.
Okay,
I
what's
have-
going on with the tickets?
It
right?
was like probably 7 or 8 tickets before it got told. I didn't know that I was getting them because they're red light tickets, and they send them to her house. She never changed her address on her license, so they was going to
My
her
license
old.
is
You don't
changed on
know.
the address.
You don't know.
I didn't
that
know
you
about
got
them
a
because-
single ticket in the 7 or 8.
Well, the red light
tickets you
ticket, they
got?
send them to your house.
Juan, would you hand me the document from? Is this the DMV document
Yes,
of the
it
tickets?
is. She had 30 tickets in all. Three camera light tickets and the rest parking tickets in front of her door.
7 or 8 tickets. You're going to stick with that story? I'm looking at the paperwork. Red light camera violation.
Supposedly she paid all of
Expired
them.
meter. Parking within 30 feet of a stop sign. Parking within 15 feet of a fire hydrant. 30 tickets over the course of 5 months. You're not paying any of these tickets. I mean, do you just not obey any of the traffic laws? You just...
Yeah, I do.
Doesn't look like you do. And if the car isn't registered in your name, you just don't care?
It's not that I don't care. I gave Miss Sandra money.
No, I'm not talking about paying the tickets. I'm talking about getting them in the first place.
If she was paying them, half of them wouldn't be on that paper because I would give her money to pay them.
You worked with LAPD. Have you ever heard of someone getting 30 tickets in 5 months?
That's a bit much, Judge. It's a
Yeah,
bit much.
that's what I thought. I know when the parking agents see you driving up, they probably look at your car and say, I wonder where she's going next. Because they know they're going to write you a ticket.
Coming up on Judge Faith, Gwen's deception runs deeper as Cassandra's bills get bigger.
What happened with your truck and these plates?
They told me that it was fake also.
That they had been reported stolen?
Yes.
Right. And you want me to believe that you went through somebody at the DMV? That sounds very legit, just so you know.
Plaintiff Cassandra Armstrong says she can't register her vehicle because Gwen is refusing to pay the tickets. She's suing for unpaid traffic tickets and transportation costs. Defendant Gwen Cole says she doesn't owe any money because Cassandra never informed her about the overdue tickets. She's countersuing for the cost of her vehicle.
You've had her to register the Dodge Durango in her name, and then those plates were taken away. I'm assuming you took...
I returned them back to the DMV.
So you returned them to the DMV because she's getting all these tickets in her name. And then what happens? How do you get plates on the truck again?
Because my dad had someone in the Bronx who supposedly did plates and insurance through Pennsylvania.
What do you mean did plates and insurance?
It was a lady, really, it was a lady she claimed that she worked in the DMV in Pennsylvania.
Hold on a second. So now you're crossing state lines to get tags on the truck again because you know someone who does plates and insurance? What happened with your truck and these plates?
My truck got towed.
And what did they say about the plates?
They told me that it was fake also.
That they had been reported stolen?
Yes.
Right. And you want me to believe that you went through somebody at the DMV?
Well, she claimed that she worked at the DMV.
That sounds very legit, just so you know.
Well, I didn't know.
Wow.
Tell me what happens next.
She posted money, Gucci shorts for a 4-year-old.
Yep.
Gucci shoes, Gucci belt for a 4-year-old. And she has a 3-month-old, twins, Burberry vest. But she can't pay her tickets.
Why are you posting all these 20s on Instagram?
I wanted to.
Just so you know, whenever I see people posting money on Instagram, that means they don't have any. Okay, so you never had the title.
She wouldn't give it to me. She held
Okay, so you never had the title.
Oh.
What does that have to do with you not paying the tickets on this car that you drove for 5 months?
Because after 7 months, I ended up not having no car thanks to her because she never gave me my title.
Do you understand your logic? I mean, let me just break this down to you. You understand the issue with the car is because you got all of these tickets on the car and they haven't been paid?
But I was
we can't get past that before we get to the next issue. This all starts because you don't know how to drive and follow traffic laws.
I know how to drive.
What's your counterclaim about?
If I didn't give her any money, do you think me and her daughter would still be friends?
What is your counter? I don't care about that. That's irrelevant. That's an irrelevant issue that you and her daughter are still friends.
It's just my point of that she's a liar.
I don't
she
care.
Said that
maybe her daughter doesn't have good judgment. I don't know. What's your counterclaim about?
She said I went to the DMV and act like I was her. Like I could be her.
You don't want to tell me about your counterclaim? Fine. What else do you have, man? What else do you want to show me?
I just want her to pay for these tickets because I'm not able. I called Gwen in February when I bought a car. I tried to register it. I can't before the ticket because of these tickets. My registration is suspended indefinite until these tickets are paid.
Okay.
So I have a car sitting that's parked in a mutual friend's parking lot driveway that I can't drive.
Coming up, Judge Faith rules. And now, Judge Faith rules.
No matter what was going on with the issue, with the title, and I'm not even sure how or why you would even agree. Well, you say you didn't agree at the very beginning and that she registered this vehicle behind your back. I'm not sure I actually believe that. Something happened here with DMV. It's very difficult for someone to just walk in DMV and register a car in your name. You said you already filled out the paperwork, but well, I don't know. You say you know a lot of people at DMV, so you may have had another.
No, I don't know anyone. I don't know anyone at DMV.
I don't know. Maybe after 2, 3, 5 tickets, maybe you need to think to yourself, maybe I need to be a more prudent driver, right? But you don't do that. You just keep getting ticket after ticket after ticket, and your main defense is you want to come in here and say, well, I gave her $400. Why don't you just stop getting tickets and try to drive like a normal person?
They're not driving tickets. They're parking.
Your counterclaim is dismissed. $1,759.17. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Thank you.
This woman's dream apartment turned into a nightmare.
Ever since she bought the building in January of this year, my flight to heaven, which is what I call my apartment, went straight to hell. I came in and my bed is drenched. I turned it on the side, it looked like Niagara Falls coming out my mattress.
She was trying to defraud me.
Plain
and simple.
Why did you keep paying rent when this apartment is looking like this?
Faith Jenkins. Her distinguished legal career began when she graduated first in her law school class. She quickly became a tough New York City prosecutor and then a preeminent legal analyst on cable news. And now she's the judge in her own courtroom. Her cases are real and her rulings are final. She is Judge Faith. Plaintiff Danielle Johnson claims her landlady is a slumlord and is suing for emotional distress and damages to her mattress. Defendant Elizabeth Williams says Danielle is a problem tenant and is countersuing for damages to a toilet.
Remain seated and come to order. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Your Honor, this is Johnson versus Williams.
Thank you, Barbara. Ms. Johnson, you've alleged a series of incidents with your apartment you leased from your landlord, the defendant, one in which involved your bed being damaged, according to you. So you're suing for $525 for your bed and $4,475 for emotional distress.
Yes.
Ms. Williams, you are countersuing for $295, the cost of a toilet you say the plaintiff broke on purpose. Ms. Johnson, we'll start with you. Let me hear about your tenancy.
This here is the slumlord from hell. Ever since she bought the building in January of this year, my slice of heaven, which is what I call my apartment, went straight to hell because of her.
How long have you lived in the apartment?
I lived in there for 4 years. And then here she comes buying the place out of nowhere. She should have stayed where she was because she didn't need to be here.
So earlier this year, the defendant purchased the building that you live in? Mm-hmm. And what happened after that?
What didn't happen? Okay, first of all, 2 weeks after she got the building, one of her workers, so-called workers, most of them she get from, you know what I mean? That's where her workers come from. One of her workers put their foot through my ceiling in my kitchen.
So hold on a second. After you purchased this building, you started doing construction on the roof? That's correct, Your Honor.
No. I live in a fourplex, okay? I live on the bottom. She's renovating the one above me. There's nobody in that apartment, okay? Her so-called workers come in there. I'm asleep. I work graveyard shift, mind you. I'm in my bed asleep. I wake up to a hole in my ceiling above my stove and all this debris all over on the floor. Her or her worker did not even have the decency to come and wake me up, knock on my door or nothing and tell me that they had did this. They just went on their little merry way.
Okay, so your workers were doing construction on the apartment above her apartment. And what happened with the ceiling?
What had happened, Your Honor, is we were not only doing the roof and then the vacant unit that was below it.
Vacant. I was in that unit.
Hold on one second.
It's not vacant. I'm in that unit.
Hold on one second.
Thank you, Your Honor. And what had happened is they're walking in between beams because this...
Stop looking at her. Turn around. Look at me. Calm down. Relax. Okay.
They're walking in between beams because this unit needed major overhaul before I purchased it, okay? And so when they were walking, one of them went in between the beam and the leg went through. So as soon as we found out about it, sent the men down there, we took care of it. I have the text messages from her. Thank you so much for taking care of this. And this is the kind of attitude we deal with no matter what I do.
But that's a pretty serious construction issue when someone's leg comes through the roof of her apartment building
Actually,
ceiling.
Your Honor, no, it was just right in between the beams. It's not like a beam fell down. It's
no,
like,
his leg came through my ceiling, and you did not even let me know. I woke up to this.
So you're not contesting. Hold on one second.
There's no excuse for you. They could have had the decency to let me know. I'm in my bed, sleep. I wake up to this.
He's going to give you notice that he fell through.
Hold on one second.
And then after that, they left. Her and her so-called worker, like I said, they don't have real workers. They get the ones from around the way, the one from, They could have at least went to Home Depot. They know something about the construction, okay?
So when's the next time? You said that your roof collapsed a number of times. Tell me about the next time.
Before that, we had the February. Everybody knew about the storm that was going to come in February.
Like a rainstorm?
Yeah, the rainstorm.
Okay.
We had rain in I don't know how long up in the Bay. Okay? Everybody knew we were going to have a rainstorm. Why do her workers, again, decide to do the roof during a rainstorm? Are you serious? Who does that?
So they were repairing a roof.
Where do they do that?
So you say that they were repairing a roof during a rainstorm.
It would be funny if I didn't have to come home and see this.
So what happened? Your roof collapsed?
No, we getting there. We getting to that one. We ain't there yet. No. I came in and my bed it's drenched. I turned it on the side. It looked like Niagara Falls coming out my mattress.
So the roof was leaking because of the construction.
I did the roof, and then the stupid idiot left and didn't even tell nobody.
Do you have any pictures?
Cover it.
And this is where you're alleging damages to your bed, right? Do you have photos? Can I see the photos?
Oh my God.
What happened with the roof leaking? Did she call you about that incident?
I think it was in a text, Your Honor.
Okay.
I took over the property January 15th.
I'm talking about that specific incident that
I
she's
am
talking
speaking about that, Your Honor.
Okay.
On January 15th.
That's not a good picture.
On January 16th, I
You
notified...
won't let me bring that.
Okay,
Well,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. On January 16th, I notified all residents that we would be having dumpsters delivered on the 17th because all of the roofs on the complex, this is a very dilapidated complex, the previous owner did not take... This is what I've had to deal with.
Hold on one second. Go ahead.
So it needed work, and so immediately, like I said, we closed escrow on the 15th. Letters delivered to the residents on the 16th. Dumpsters delivered on the 17th for the work to all of the roofs of the property to be redone.
Okay, so let me ask, if you were going to do construction, there was pretty serious construction on the roof, why not move people out of their units if there's a probability that a roof could collapse or there could be serious leaks and people's property could be damaged or legs coming in through the ceiling?
Because that costs money. She doesn't do cheap route.
Please, let her answer the question.
No, I haven't done that at all.
Because there seems to be pretty serious renovations while people are living in their homes.
Normally roof construction, you take out a permit. You do a tear off, you see what's going on. This should have been relatively easy when we started into the project.
Well, it sounds like
the first thing you do is tear off, and then you'll find out that you had more damage. Okay, which is exactly what we did. And then you can cover up. Now on Miss Johnson's roof, it happens to be what's called a flat roof. And flat roofs are a lot different than a pitched roof. And when the rainstorm did come in, yes, it was covered, okay, but the water doesn't have anywhere to go when it's on a flat roof. Where on a pitched roof it can. So on a flat roof it collected, and that's what caused the problem. However, the roof
what did you do to fix the leak that time, this second incident that she's referring to?
For when the roof leaked, the roof was replaced.
When was the roof replaced?
The exact final date I don't know, but I believe we finished somewhere.
What date did this incident happen with your mattress?
About the 2nd or 3rd of February.
Okay, when was the roof replaced?
It was in process at that point. I believe we were completed by the end of February.
Excuse me.
Okay, so...
There is no excuse.
Yeah, not as long as you're breathing.
Don't talk to each other, ladies. Just don't talk to each other.
Coming up on Judge Faith.
I had to freaking ask permission to even go to the bathroom because the workers was up there standing around laughing and playing music.
What do you have to say about that?
Maybe if she wasn't so busy sexting the workers, I could have got this stuff done.
Really?
Yes, really.
She complained about her son because she couldn't get no...
Yeah. One thing I don't have a problem with is getting... Maybe if you stop sucking on one, then you would get some.
Danielle Johnson says her landlady was a slumlord and is suing for emotional damage and to replace her mattress. Elizabeth Williams is countersuing for damage to her toilet.
Tell me what this is a picture of.
This is the first time the bathroom ceiling collapsed. The first time, mind you. Look, I'm on my way to the bathroom. Thank God the roar came and I jumped back in time that it was gonna that light that you see up there. That is the apartment above me, the renovation apartment that she's doing.
Wow, there's a hole in that roof.
I had to freaking ask permission to even go to the bathroom because the workers was up there standing around laughing and playing music.
What do you have to say about that?
Maybe if she wasn't so busy sexing the workers, I could have got this stuff done.
Really?
Yes, really.
She complained about her son because she couldn't get no...
Okay. Yeah. Okay. One thing I don't have a problem with is getting... Maybe if you stop sucking on one, then you would get some. Leave that 18-year-old worker of yours alone, and then maybe you wouldn't know what it feel like. Get a real man. Get a real man. Leave them little boys alone. That little 18-year-old worker, leave him alone. He barely grown.
Go ahead.
I'm going to tell his mom on you.
Your Honor.
Okay.
Your Honor, when I was notified of corrections by the city, the corrections were fixed within 3 days.
3 days, my behind.
The city was notified me by email.
Talk to the judge.
No time.
Ma'am, talk to the judge.
Welcome to my world, Your Honor.
You are the devil's mother.
Okay, ladies, you have to watch your language. You understand? You're in court.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I'm looking at this photo now, and this looks,
That's nothing.
this is a pretty significant problem. This looks like work that needs to be done when residents have been removed from the area, because that doesn't look safe. That doesn't look like a safe place where someone can live when there's a hole in the ceiling. What do you have to say about that? Wait.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. Unfortunately, that's what happened. The apartment above had, like I said, so much problems. And when you open up the walls, I can see now why the previous owner left this unit vacant for so long. Because when you open up the walls and water was turned on, unfortunately, water was leaking out of the pipes, okay? And you don't know that till the walls are opened. So when that happened, she notified us, boom, I'm so sorry.
Let me see the next photo.
Excuse me, Judge Faith.
Let me see the next photo.
Wasn't nothing leaking until her construction started. That's my bathroom.
What is this?
That's when the bathroom, when the ceiling collapsed, and that's a good picture. You ain't seen when it got bad.
What do you have to say about that?
Excuse me,
Your Honor,
Judge
yes,
Faith.
that absolutely happened, okay? And we
Twice.
came in, we fixed it immediately, we did all of the
But it should not
cleaning.
have happened. That's the problem.
You know,
this is
unfortunately-
inexcusable. She does not have to live in an apartment where the roof keeps collapsing above her head. She shouldn't have to live like that. Would you want to live in an apartment like that?
Yeah,
Would you want to live in
absolutely.
an apartment like that?
I'm sorry, Your
Would
Honor.
you want to live in an apartment where the roof keeps collapsing and your bathroom
absolutely
looks
not.
like that?
No.
That's unacceptable.
Right.
She doesn't have to live like that.
Right.
Let me see the next picture. What is this a photo of?
Those are the big fans that ran for 3 days in my bedroom. Mind you, I was out of my bedroom, sleeping on an air mattress in my living room for a month. Now, mind you, she's upstairs doing construction. Nobody lives up there.
Let me ask you something. Why didn't you move?
Because I had nowhere to go. I work at night.
Where do you work?
I work at a homeless shelter in San Francisco.
What do you do?
I'm a service coordinator. And I'm there at night. By the time I come home, I'm tired. I prayed to God that someone would help me. I prayed, and I had to even remove my dog because he was so scared. And I'm like, it just...
That's against your lease.
It just went on and on and on. And she's gonna talk about the dog in my lease, okay? Everybody in the whole complex got dogs. She just moved in a person with a pet bull. What, a pet bull is better than a Shih Tzu? Really? I have a Shih Tzu. You just moved a person with a pet bull upstairs. And as far as
is this the bed that you say was damaged?
That's the bed, but those fans were for 3 days.
I'm just looking at this.
Do you know how cold that was?
I'm looking at this apartment, and you're only suing for $525 for the cost of a bed. I mean, this looks like there was so much more than a bed damaged here. Let's go to the next photo. That's a picture of the mattress?
Yes.
And defendant, you said that you actually went in and inspected the mattress and the bed, and it was damaged?
Yes, it was, Your Honor.
Okay, so she only asked you to replace the bed, which was $525. Why didn't you do that?
Okay, because, Your Honor...
She could be asking for a lot more. She could move out into a hotel. She could withhold her rent based on the conditions I'm seeing in these photos and not pay you anything until this is fixed.
Next on Judge Faith.
When this first happened with the mattress again, I apologized. And then she said she had 12 pillows or whatever that needed... 13, I'm sorry. 13 pillows that needed replacing, okay?
I'm looking at the damage in this apartment, and you're counting how many pillows she's saying was damaged?
Did.
I mean, you're like penny pinching.
Danielle Johnson is suing her landlady for emotional damage and to replace her mattress. Elizabeth Williams is countersuing for damage to her toilet.
She continued to live under these conditions and is only asking you for $525 to replace her bed. Why didn't you pay her that money?
Well, because she was trying to defraud me.
Plain
and simple.
She offered
She's
to pay
trying
me
to defraud
$200
you,
if I
and you want her to
cancel the
live
case.
in this unlivable apartment.
No, that was not the case.
How
Your
was she
Honor.
trying to defraud you?
Okay. She told me when this first happened with the mattress again, I apologized. And then she said she had 12 pillows or whatever
13.
that needed 13 pillows that needed replacing, okay?
I'm looking at the damage in this apartment, and you're counting how many pillows she's saying was damaged.
Did.
I mean, you're like penny pinching. And I don't get it. Like, this is thousands of dollars worth of damages, and you're concerned about how many pillows
That
were on
damage was to
on
my
a
property,
bed?
not thousands of dollars to her property, thousands of dollars to my property.
I'm looking at these photos, and I'm telling you now, there's no way that just a bed was damaged and that she should have to live in those kinds of conditions. There's no way.
Okay.
I mean, the fact it is unfathomable to me that you can look at those photos and I can look at those photos and everyone else and know no one should have to live like that. And you're saying, I don't think that bed is worth $500.
And Judge,
It's no excuse.
Judge, she told me if I settled for $200, she would make everything go away and I could continue to live there.
No.
Yes, you did.
No, I
didn't.
didn't.
Yes, you did. Don't lie.
See, the problem in cases like this, because I think this is horrible. I don't think anyone should have to live in these kinds of conditions, and I think it's unacceptable. She should not have to live in a unit like that. And if you had an ounce of decency, you would have put her up into a hotel, and let her move out of that apartment and said, you know what, for the next 2 weeks while we're fixing this roof, you shouldn't be here because it's not safe. If she had been injured, you'd be paying a lot more, lady. She's only asking you for $525 for a mattress and a bed.
Judge,
No. I don't need to hear anything else.
As of yesterday, before I came here, the city inspectors who have sued her for 11 properties, the city of Oakland sued her for 11 properties in 2006. There's 3 articles of her about her being a slumlord of Oakland. Not only that, but the city came out right before I came here. And at my back door is feces coming up out of the sewer. They took pictures of that. Not to mention that they're renovating the apartment not above me but on the side of me, and they're throwing the stuff that they're tearing out of the wall. They're throwing it on the side of the building. There's trash.
I have a question for you. Why did you keep paying rent when this apartment was looking like this? Good. If she didn't, great. She did the right thing. Because there's no way she should be paying to live in an apartment like that. And you shouldn't even expect her to.
Right.
I just want to say, finally, someone can hear my story and decide, because I felt like I was in this alone, like nobody cared. So just thank you just for hearing this and putting an end to my misery and putting just closure. Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry that you had to go through this because, first, I love the work that you do. There are not a lot of people who are willing to go into shelters and work with people who are homeless and need help. And I know that's a job that doesn't pay a lot of money. And you probably are in a situation where you couldn't just go to a hotel like some people can when there's construction and things going on in their homes. You don't have the money to go to a hotel, so you're stuck living in a situation like this, and that's what's really unfortunate here. I'm not saying that the roof needs to be built like Noah's Ark, but it should be able to withstand a rainstorm.
Coming up, Judge Faith rules. And now, Judge Faith rules.
You actually have a counterclaim suing for a toilet that you think she intentionally broke in that apartment. I mean, I'm looking at the apartment and everything looks horrible. And I don't want to hear your counterclaim because this case really upsets me. Okay. My judgment in this case is for the plaintiff.
Thank you.
I'm going to award you $525, which is the cost of your bed. I think that you could have asked for a lot more in damages from this situation. You're asking for $4,475 in emotional distress. This is not an emotional distress type of case. This is a contracts case. So I can't award you emotional distress. She did breach her contract to you. And in every contract, in every lease, there's an implied warranty of habitability, and I think that was breached. I'm going to award an additional $1,000 to you in punitive damages and have her pay you an additional $1,000 for everything you went through the month that she chose to work on that roof while you still lived there in those horrible conditions. I think it was unsafe. I think it was dangerous, and I think it was a unpleasant experience, to say the least. It seemed like it was a nightmare, and one of my goals in life, I try to treat other people how I would want to be treated, and there's no way if you or one of your relatives were living in that apartment, you would allow them to stay there while that place looked like hell. My ruling is for the plaintiff, judgment for the plaintiff, my verdict, $1,525 for the plaintiff.
A gentleman looking for repayment of a very personal loan.
I don't do women's favor unless they do me favor. That's understood with all of my ladies' friends, so they know this up front.
It's just like a marriage. If you're married to someone, the wife, she gives him sex and he pays all the bills. It's no different.
What you're telling me is you were paying the defendant in exchange for sex.
And Sometimes you need good fences to have good neighbors.
His dog attacked mine, and ever since then, he's been extremely rude to me. He harasses me. He bullies me when my fiance is not home, when I'm alone.
She's gone and gotten a special needs pit bull since then that's deaf, that she screams at. Of course the dog's gonna go hide.
Are you a bully, sir?
Faith Jenkins. Her distinguished legal career began when she graduated first in her law school class. She quickly became a tough New York City prosecutor and then a preeminent legal analyst on cable news. And now she's the judge in her own courtroom. Her cases are real and her rulings are final. She is Judge Faith. Plaintiff Donnie Hurst is suing his daughter's best friend for repayment of money he gave her. Defendant Brandy Collins admits she received money from the plaintiff, but says he knew she needed the money and it was a gift.
Remain seated and come to order. Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Faith Jenkins presiding. Your Honor, this is Hurst versus Collins.
Thank you, Barbara. Okay, Mr. Donnie Hurst.
Yes.
You are suing the defendant, Brandy Collins, for $160 for a loan you say she failed to repay you.
That's correct.
And Ms. Collins, you are countersuing for $1,000 for defamation of character?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Why don't we start with you, sir? Tell me what's going on.
Well, Your Honor, back about a year ago, May 2013, I met Brandon through my daughter, who's 25, and they associate with each other real well.
How old are you, Brandy?
I'm 26.
Okay. And how
My
old are you,
daughter's
sir?
25.
Okay.
And
how old are you?
I'm 58.
All right.
And they're real good friends, and my daughter gets pretty much anything she wants from me, and her and Brandon was a real good friend. And that's how I come to meet Brandon. So Brandon, I guess, needed money on several occasions, and her and I became very good friends. And she's a sweet girl, she's a beautiful girl, and I'm an older guy, I'm single, I'm not married, I don't have a girlfriend, I don't date women. What I do is associate with them favors. And if you want me to be specific, I can do that as well.
No, I don't know what you're talking about when you say favors.
Well, we had sexual favors. And it's strictly business, strictly business.
Excuse me, let's get some order, please.
And it was strictly business. So Brandon knows that I do not lend women's money. I don't do women's favor unless they do me favor. That's understood with all of my ladies' friends. So they know this up front. And I have evidence to prove that from the year or so that her and I have been friends.
Okay, so you're saying that the two of you had a sexual relationship.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Well, what is the loan? I don't understand how that relates to $160.
This particular loan, her and I have had a relationship over a year ago. So we've been involved down through the months leading up to this last loan. I've lent her money from time. I never loaned because she always paid in favors. So she gave me, I gave her. I never gave her any money up front. I always, whenever she came to me, she took care of me, I paid her.
Okay, so now that I have a clearer understanding.
Well, I hope you really do have a clear understanding, because you seem to be a little.
No, I have a clear understanding, and I'm not a little anything.
Okay.
What you're telling me is you were paying the defendant in exchange for sex.
Exactly.
Okay, so let me tell you something, because
Please
I
do.
understand exactly what's going on. And you're from what state?
State of Georgia, Peach State of Georgia.
Okay, so I don't care what you call it. You can call it favors. You can call it a business transaction, sir.
Your Honor,
that
it
state,
was
excuse
a
me,
business
I'm
transaction.
I'm
It
speaking.
wasn't favor, it was
I am
business.
speaking. You can call it whatever you want to call it. In your state, it is called prostitution.
Well,
and it
then
is
that
illegal.
might be it.
And it
That
is
might be
illegal.
it.
Okay. What's going on, ma'am?
I was stranded in Florida. We have been friends for a while, maybe about 2 years now. I was stranded in Florida. We had prior conversations about the transaction for sexual favors or whatever. We haven't had any sexual relations for about a year and a half now. It's been a while.
That's not true.
So when he asked me, he texted me and asked me, okay, can we hook up? I lost complete contact with him. He'd seen me.
Why would you agree to do something like this in the very beginning? I mean, you're obviously. I'm speaking, sir. Do not speak right now.
I'm a single parent. I'm in college. It's hard. And
I was in college. I was broke. I had no money. I get it. But
we all do different things.
There's not enough money in the universe for this man to be able to pay me to have sex with him. You understand?
Well, I don't know.
That's understood, but that's you and I'm me. We're two totally different people. Things happen in our lives where we do stuff. It's just like a marriage. If you're married to someone, the wife, she gives him sex and he pays all the bills. It's no different.
This is totally different. This is totally different because in your state, it is actually illegal and a crime. And you guys can come in here and try to paint this in a different picture and describe it in whatever way you want to.
I was never on the corner.
Money
is not painting anything. It is what
yes,
it is.
It is, sir.
Your Honor,
yes,
people come to reason for many different reasons. Right now, you might be lonely, want to be with me, but you ain't woman enough to say it.
Listen, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, sir.
Things.
Let me tell you something. Everyone does things in their private lives. Everyone has skeletons in their closet. But you're bringing this to my courtroom today, and I'm going to address it. If you don't want to hear the truth, then don't come in my courtroom.
The truth doesn't bother me. I don't have a wife. I don't have a girlfriend. I'm not dating anybody. So what is that to make me feel bad about? Nothing.
Because
I do what I do, and they come to me for what they need. So I give them what they need. They give me what I need, and we're done. She go her way, I go my way.
And guess what?
We don't come together.
Your case, it is prostitution. If you came into this courtroom and told me that you sold drugs to the defendant, I sold heroin to the defendant, she didn't pay me back, and I'm suing right now because she owes me money for the heroin. Guess what? I'm not going to hear that case because you are bringing an illegal act.
You know why we're here, Your Honor?
Do not
we are
interrupt
here because
me.
She
Do
did
not interrupt me,
pay,
sir.
And we didn't have sex on this.
Sir, and what I'm telling you is you entered into an illegal agreement that no court in America will enforce because it is prostitution. Do you understand? Do you understand me?
Coming up, Judge Faith tells it like it is.
What if you meet someone like him who's willing to pay you and they don't get what they want? They may not end up taking you to court. They may end up taking you to a back alley. What are you going to do then? You have a child you have to think about and consider.
And later, who let the dogs in?
Whose dog bit my dog then?
Bit her dog? We don't know. It happened in a situation.
But it was one of your dogs.
No, you can't say that. Were you there to see it?
Are you saying that perhaps it was her other dog that
bit? It very
bit?
well could have been.
Plaintiff Donnie Hurst is suing his daughter's best friend for repayment of money he gave her. Defendant Brandy Collins admits she received money from the plaintiff, but says he knew she needed the money and it was a gift.
Life is about choices, and everyone makes choices in their lives. There are some things you can't choose. You can't choose when you're born, where you're born, who you are born to, but
Correct.
you can choose how you live.
Correct.
All I'm saying to you,
Which is why I didn't engage.
All I am saying to you, ma'am, is you are young, you're in college. Don't make choices. You're making choices for today. I want you to think about tomorrow, because what if you meet someone like him who's willing to pay you and they don't get what they want? They may not end up taking you to court. They may end up taking you to a back alley. What are you going to do then? You have a child you have to think about and consider, okay? Your counterclaim is dismissed. Your case is dismissed, and if I were you, I would be embarrassed to even bring a lawsuit like
Your
this,
Honor,
sir.
I'm not.
Absolutely embarrassed.
She did not
Dismissed.
perform
Go
what
home.
she agreed to do.
Plaintiff Autumn Newberry is suing her neighbor for vet bills and trauma. Her dog was attacked by his. Defendant Brent Ward says the plaintiff can't prove that it was his dog who did the damage.
Okay, Autumn Newberry, you are suing the defendant Brent Ward for $500 for vet bill and psychological damage to your dog.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Ward, you are countersuing for $1,000 for misuse of the common area, unauthorized use of storage, garbage removal, and lost wages.
Correct.
Why don't you start, Ms. Newberry, and tell me what happened here?
Okay, so basically his dog attacked mine, and ever since then he's been extremely rude to me. He harasses me, he bullies me when my fiance is not home, when I'm alone. He refused to pay the vet bill, and he never apologized, and I care about my dog, so...
Are you a bully, sir?
I'm not a bully.
What kind of place do you live in, and how is he your neighbor?
Well, it's kind of weird. His house can be seen from the street, and then on the side there's a driveway, and then there's a door to a common backyard that we share, and then my house is behind there.
Let's look at the yard. Okay.
Okay, so that white door, that's
On
the
the
only
left?
way to enter into my house, yes, on the
Okay.
left. That sliding glass door is Brent's back sliding glass door, so that yard right there is the shared yard.
You have dogs as well, right?
I do.
How many dogs do you have?
At the time, I had 2. I now have 3.
And how many did you have at that
2
time?
as well.
Okay, so prior to the dog incident, what was the relationship like between the two of you sharing the yard?
It was fine. I've never had a problem with it.
It didn't exist. Everybody gets along with her fiance, essentially until Autumn gets home. And then he shuts down. She's never come out of her shell. I don't even honestly remember an introduction.
Okay, but you were friendly with her fiance.
Yeah.
How long did you live in the house before the date of this incident with the dogs?
It was almost 3 months.
So for 3 months, the dogs would see each other and play together and there was no issue?
For 3 months, we'd both leave our doors open.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of dogs do you have?
I have a dachshund and a boxer.
What about you?
I have a pit bull and I really don't know. I think she's an Australian Shepherd pit bull.
What date did the incident happen where you say your dog was injured?
That was on April 29th.
And what happened that day?
I was at work, so my fiance was home. It was the same situation where both of our doors were open, and our dogs were in Brent's house, actually.
How did they get over there?
His door was open. They let them in.
So I want you to take me through that very clearly, though. Your dogs were in the backyard, and the backsliding door to your house was open.
Yeah, all the doors were open again. So their front door was open, my back door was open. The dogs were in and out of my house, their house, and the yard.
So they sort of roam freely throughout between the houses, and that's happened on occasion?
Had gone on for almost 3 months at that point.
Okay. So what happens next?
So my fiance heard my dog screaming. He said he's never heard him make that sound before, so obviously he ran over
to the defendant's house.
Correct. And then my dog, Phineas, he ran outside. He wouldn't let anyone touch him.
Where's your fiance today?
He's at work.
So I'll hear the hearsay. Go ahead.
So he ran out to see what was wrong with him. My dog wouldn't let anyone touch him. And then finally, when my fiance was able to get close enough to him, he saw that there was a gash on the top of his head and then at his neck, kind of like, like his head was inside of the larger dog's mouth.
Did you see what happened with the dogs?
No one did. I mean, really,
were there any injuries to your dogs?
No.
Okay. Do you have photos of the injuries?
I do.
May I see them?
Yes.
So you take the dog and...
No, I couldn't. I was working at the time.
Okay.
My wife loaded her fiance and the dog into our vehicle.
Into the vet?
This was not voluntary. My fiance had to beg them while Brent sat on his phone and completely ignored him.
That is 100% not true. I was working on a conference call. My wife is a homemaker. She was available to do it. I wasn't. My wife loaded them in the car to take them to the vet. En route to the vet, Autumn finally responded to her fiance's texts and calls. When she responded on the phone, my fiance's driving them to the vet. She goes into a jealous fit of rage, screaming at on the phone, "Why on earth would you be in a car with her? You have no business being in a car with that woman." We were taking the dog to the vet. She had us turn around and take the dog to a tanning salon.
I worked at a tanning salon. I wanted to see my dog before he went to the vet because the way my fiance was describing it was
But did you yell
really
at him
bad.
for being in the car with the defendant's
I yelled
wife?
at him for not calling me. I didn't know that he called me. I wasn't allowed to have my phone at
So
work.
it wasn't about the defendant's wife. It was
No,
just about
I
the
know her,
dog.
and
Okay.
I have no problem with that. But I did want to see my dog before he went, so he came and picked up the car and then drove to the vet.
Okay, let's see the photo of the injuries.
That's after the vet.
Okay,
So after
did he
cleaned it
get
up.
Stitches or what was the
No,
treatment
they
at the
just
vet?
gave him a sedative. They just cleaned it up. They
Was he
gave
okay
him-
after this? Did
he honestly, physically, he was okay, but he's not the same. He scares really easily. He's never been like that. He hides under their table sometimes when he hears a loud noise.
Right. It was a traumatic experience.
Right.
Coming up on Judge Faith, the trauma goes well beyond the dog's injuries.
There's so much anxiety for me to even be in the same room as him right now because he's yelled at me. He threw my stuff at me. He brought in another woman who I don't even know, and she was physically touching my things and throwing them at me.
Plaintiff Autumn Newberry is suing her neighbor for vet bills after claiming his dog attacked her Dachshund. Defendant Brent Ward says he offered to split the bill, but they never spoke another word.
So you take the dog to the vet, he's treated, and what's the conversation between the two of you? I understand that you agreed to pay a portion of the vet bill, but you didn't, so what happened?
There was no conversation, there was no
That's
apology, there was
That's not true at
nothing
all.
actually at all. We walked right past his house, he was still on his phone.
And what's your version of this? Your
So
dog.
on-
so you
on
know
multiple
that
occasions, I've
you do
offered-
agree that your
That is
dog
not true.
bit her dog,
Absolutely.
right? Okay.
No, absolutely not. Excuse me. I was agreeing that I offered to pay.
Whose dog bit my dog then?
Bit her dog? We don't know. It happened in a
But it was
situation.
one of your dogs.
No, you can't say that. Were you there to see it?
Are you saying that perhaps it was her other dog?
It very well could have been. And since then, since the dog has now apparently suffered psychological damages, she's gone and gotten a special needs pit bull since then that's deaf that she screams at. Of course the dog's going to go hide.
Did you go get
What
a third?
are you
got another
talking about?
dog, a third dog?
We did get a third dog.
The two of you, were you getting along after this? What happened to the relationship?
No, the relationship
He's a
fell apart.
bully. There's so much anxiety for me to even be in the same room as him right now because he's yelled at me. He threw my stuff at me. He brought in another woman who I don't even know, and she was physically touching my things and throwing them at me.
What is that about?
That was me removing her things from my storage unit. If we're able to bring up the first picture that Autumn had of the yard.
Sure. This is about your counterclaim.
Yeah, on the far right of that picture, there's a cellar.
Which belongs
that
to no
cellar is
one.
my private yard, my private storage space. When they moved in, without asking, without saying anything to me, they loaded their stuff into my storage.
The owner said we could. He said it was
The
a
owner
shared
did not
storage.
say that she could.
Is that your misuse of the common area?
No, that's the unauthorized use of my storage. The misuse of the common area, I haven't been able to use the backyard, the common area of the backyard, since she got the third dog. They also have a private yard.
So do
What
you.
about the garbage removal?
You have a private yard as well.
They never once removed their garbage cans to the street, not once.
Why is she liable to you for damages
Because
they
I
didn't
was
take their
forced
garbage
to
out?
remove her garbage.
Who forced you? Really, what would
I'd
have
rather
happened?
not
My
have a-
garbage would not have been taken out.
I
Nothing
can show
would
you.
have
I
happened.
can show you a
That's
couple
on-
of photos, Your Honor, if you'd like, of literally garbage that is piled out of their garbage cans because I quit
How does
taking it
that
out.
affect
Okay.
you?
Let's get back to the issue with the dog. At some point,
Yep.
you agreed to pay for a
on the
portion
night
of the vet bill.
on the night of the incident, her fiance mentioned that the bill for the vet was about $306 or something like that. I offered to pay half that vet bill.
No, you
And
did
so-
not.
Immediately, I offered
Did
to
you
pay
pay
half.
half?
Why would
No,
I
I didn't.
sue you?
He said, "Sure, we'll talk about it."
That never happened.
And you
Communication
never-
stopped.
And now, Judge Faith rules.
Your dogs were in his home, and you told me that for 3 months you guys lived in this property. It was common for your dogs and his dogs to be back and forth into each other's homes, and you knew, your fiance knew, that the dogs were over there. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to dismiss your claim against the defendant. He's not obligated legally to pay for the vet bill. In terms of your counterclaim, sir, it seems that a lot of these issues came up after the relationship broke down between the two of you as a result of this dog bite. You don't own this property, so you don't have standing to sue. So on your counterclaim 0, I understand you're moving?
Yes.
When?
At the end of this month, the 31st.
Okay, that's a great decision. I think you should move, and you guys should not have shared yards. And don't share yards. That's what you take away from this case. No shared yards. Have a good day.